The other day, I was sitting in my chair in a large, empty void, which is something I tend to do quite often, and I started to ask myself something I'm certain I've already asked myself at least 500 times by now. What exactly makes Garry's Mod fun? Is it that limitless potential, enabling you to open your mind and build anything that you can possibly imagine? Is it the thousands of creative, unique, and fresh maps that you can spend all day exploring, appreciating, and getting lost in? Or is it the fact that you can go to the workshop, click one button, and have Markiplier in your game, ready for you to do whatever it is you'd like to do to him? No, it's actually none of those things. Not even Markiplier. The real fun of playing Garry's Mod comes from the fact that you can play games that are not Garry's Mod inside of it. I've been playing this game for long enough to realize that as much as I love its distinct style and everything about it that makes it unique in comparison to the modern gaming landscape, the only reason it really continues to have any relevance is because it's so damn good at mimicking the modern gaming landscape. Poorly remaking popular games using an absurd amount of add-ons might as well be the official pastime of the Garry's Mod player base at this point, and a pretty good chunk of the most popular add-ons on the workshop are ones that in some way turn Garry's Mod into an entirely different game altogether. Which gave me a bit of a devious idea. See, most people just download one or two add-ons that make Gmod a bit more like their favorite game and end up calling it a day after that. Which makes sense. As open and free as Garry's Mod is, you'd have to be borderline insane to think that you could actually fully remake popular games in Garry's Mod using nothing but add-ons that already exist on the workshop. So anyways, today I'm going to try and fully remake popular games in Garry's Mod using nothing but add-ons that already exist on the workshop. Before that though, I would like to call your attention to the fact that this video is sponsored by manscaped.com. Manscaped just released their newest Perfect Package 5.0 Ultra featuring the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra electric trimmer. The Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra is a next level trimmer that features dual skin safe blade heads with an upgraded trimmer blade and interchangeable foil blade for enhanced performance. Expertly designed to leave you with that irresistibly smooth finish as it glides softly across your skin, trimming even your toughest hairs. Manscaped OGs will appreciate that this trimmer is a tribute to classic Manscaped products, keeping all the same features you've come to love over the years, like a rechargeable lithium-ion battery, RPM technology, USB-C charging, and it's still waterproof. When you buy the Perfect Package 5.0 Ultra, you'll receive one very generous free gift, the Manscaped Shed 2.0 travel bag. Head over to manscaped.com and get your hands on the Perfect Package 5.0 Ultra. When you use my promo code RAT20, you'll get 20% off, free international shipping, and one free gift. That's 20% off plus free shipping and a free gift with promo code RAT20 at manscaped.com. I'm being told I have to say balls one more time before the segment closes out, so fellas, your balls will thank you. Fallout. A game where you shoot at people with a rusty pistol so that you can steal bottles of soda from their lifeless body. As weird as this might sound, my first order of business to turn Gmod into Fallout was fixing up the movement system. Source Engine player movement and Fallout player movement couldn't be any more different from each other, so I knew I was going to have to overhaul it no matter what. So I downloaded a mod from the workshop called Tac Move, which overhauls Gmod's movement entirely and makes it a lot more weighty. By default, it's a little extreme and feels like something that would belong in Escape from Tarkov or something, so I tweaked a few of the parameters and got it feeling pretty close to how it feels to move around in a Fallout game. I also took this time to make my player model the most generic-looking Fallout guy that I could possibly find. I added in an inventory system so that I could pick up items like ammo and weapons and whatnot, and store it away in my inventory for later. I looked up and down the workshop and couldn't find anything even remotely resembling a Pip-Boy, so this weird DayZ-style inventory system is just gonna have to do. And what good is an inventory system if there aren't any items to loot? I use this body looting add-on to add lootable corpses to the game that play an animation when you go over to loot them, and can drop anything from a new weapon to different random calibers of ammo. Ignore that, please. I don't know why it does that. This also added lootable containers like cabinets and boxes, which also ended up working out pretty nicely. Now I could make it so that something like this dresser, for example, just has a giant nuclear bomb sitting inside of it. Next was a very important one, and that's the Fallout weapons. A very nice person on the workshop named Nightly H uploaded this pack of Fallout sweeps that not only includes nearly every gun in the game, but also comes with its own unique ammo system where each and every gun is accounted for. The weapons themselves were admittedly very janky, but Fallout is a very janky game to begin with, so if anything that only adds a nice little layer of authenticity to this whole thing. The melee weapons, on the other hand, were just inexcusably bad. Speaking of bad weapons, I still had a problem in that when I shot a guy in the head with my gun at point-blank range, nothing really happened. That's because GMod doesn't have support for realistic body damage by default, so shooting someone in the head is the same as shooting them in the leg. I used the enhanced damage add-on to fix that right up, and now I could peel this nerd's cap back in one clean shot. I was basically done at this point, but the final step was to get rid of that old GMod HUD and replace it with a Fallout one. Bam. This actually kind of looks, I'm not going to say convincing, but it does look like Fallout. Also, just because I know people are going to scream at me if I don't mention this, I did try to add VATS, but it honestly just sucked so hard, and 90% of the time all it did was put the camera in the ground, so sorry, I tried. After downloading like a million more gigabytes of random Fallout props and models, it was finally time to say goodbye to GM Construct and move on to the most important part of this whole thing. I not only changed maps to this huge Fallout roleplay map, I also downloaded the quest and dialogue system. An insane add-on that not only adds NPCs that can spit customizable dialogue at you, but also has a pretty in-depth quest editor built into it. I spent much longer than I would like to admit designing a small Fallout-themed questline for this giant overworld, and accidentally deleted my progress like 4 times during the whole process. But without any further ado, I am very pleased to present to you the finished product. Fallout G, or something. I don't know. The title has some room for improvement, I think. In Fallout G, you assume the role of the most generic Fallout protagonist of all time. You don't start in a vault or some kind of tribal village. You just materialize into the world. An NCR ranger named Jut Jackson takes notice of this, but doesn't really seem to care. Upon talking to Jut and asking for his help, he tells you that he really isn't interested and unfortunately has no time to help you out, but that the town behind him might just have what you're looking for. You walk into the town where you meet the mayor of this fine settlement named Horrible Harry, who just so happens to have a job for you, but will refuse to give you any work unless you come back with a gun. Luckily, just outside of the mayor's office, a little boy who looks like a grown man is having a mental breakdown because he lost his toy in the abandoned building behind him and is too scared to go and retrieve it. As fate would have it, he also tells you that if you'd be so kind as to go and get it for him, he'll give you a 10mm pistol and 70 rounds of 10mm ammunition. This kicks off the very first thrilling quest in Fallout G, which consists of you walking about 20 feet, picking up a toy, and handing it back to a small child. Now that you have a gun, you can finally go and get a job from Horrible Harry. He sends you on a quest to retrieve his lost guns from a soda factory, kicking off the most authentic Fallout experience known to mankind, walking very, very slowly across a barren wasteland to reach a quest marker. Once you get there, there's a whole lot of close quarters ghoul combat, which I actually found to not only be pretty fun, but also pretty on par with combat in Fallout. I think small touches like the body damage and being able to loot corpses really help make it feel like more than just a bunch of GMod add-ons that are hastily slapped together, which, don't get me wrong, is exactly what this is. After you collect all of Harry's revolvers and return them to him, the quest line is basically over because I honestly kind of got bored at this point. There's one more secret mission where you have to go and assassinate Harry's brother, Horrible Horatio, but it was just too stupid to actually finish. The rest of my game just consists of walking around, exploring empty parts of the map, looting stuff, and fighting random NPCs, but I do honestly think that it came out pretty alright. The combat is fun and feels like Fallout, and not to over-exaggerate here, but at a glance, it really does kind of look like a Fallout game. Like, if you show this to someone for just a split second like this, if that was all they saw, they might really think it's actually Fallout. So, I don't know about you, but I consider that a massive W.
Hey, George Bush here, George W. Bush. I just wanted to say that I thought it was really epic that you made Fallout in Gary's mod. I didn't think it was lame at all. I thought it was really cool, and I think it's going to be awesome in the video. So put this in the video, let everyone know that I endorsed that last part, and I probably endorse what's coming next, although I haven't seen it yet. Alright, Bush out.
Next up, we had Super Mario, that little Italian fella that goes, wahoo! I chose to remake Mario next because Mario's gameplay formula is maybe the furthest thing humanly possible from Gmod's default gameplay, and because I use this nasty-ass picture of GMan Mario in the thumbnail, which means I am basically contractually obligated to include Mario in this video. Getting Super Mario to work in Gary's mod was actually a hell of a lot more simple than I thought it would be. Literally, all I had to do was download one add-on, supply it with my legal backup of a retail Mario 64 ROM, and within moments I was parading around GM Construct as Mario himself. The movement was quite literally one-to-one, considering it was pulling directly from the original ROM. It had a bunch of nice features like being able to spawn and pick up coins, a fully working HUD, and the ability to put on different caps that give you different power-ups. I honestly could have spent all day jumping and prancing and flying around GM Construct like this, and truthfully I almost did, but I knew my job wasn't finished until I could feasibly trick a small child into thinking I was actually playing Super Mario 64. So I headed over to the workshop to grab some ports of Mario 64 maps, only to be rudely reminded that back in April, Nintendo effectively set off a nuclear bomb on the Gary's Mod workshop by removing most of their content from it with a DMCA takedown. Luckily, a small number of maps managed to survive. Most of them just focused on porting over a small little area from Mario 64 with enhanced lighting, but they were still really fun to jump around on, and by this point I had only installed like 2 add-ons and my game was basically indistinguishable from Mario 64. The most feature-complete map I found was a port of the first proper level of Mario 64, Bomb-On Battlefield. This wasn't just a small proof-of-concept port that only featured level geometry, it had everything from coins to destructible objects, interactable environments, and even had all the original 7 stars to collect from the original game. I don't even think this map was made with the Mario add-on in mind and was just meant for regular GMod gameplay, so the fact that it mostly works is nothing short of impressive. We are now 3 add-ons deep, and we've basically already hit the upper level of how much you can make something look like Mario 64 without it actually being Mario 64. The coolest part of this map takes place on the top of the mountain, and that's this big boss fight with the big bomb guy. It's a fully scripted boss fight that's actually pretty damn hard, but also ended up being pretty fun. It's insane to know that all of this is being done just by the map. Also, just for the sake of transparency, this asshole kept owning me pretty hard, so I did end up spawning Father Grigori to help me out during the fight. He doesn't actually do anything besides just stand there, but he is very good moral support.
Although they call me crazy, I care not, for thou art my helper, my strength, and my savior.
Thanks.
It's unfortunately impossible to actually beat the level though, because some of the stars require being launched by these cannons, which don't actually work with the Mario mod installed. But nonetheless, this is such a cool map, and in tandem with the cool-ass Mario mod, you can basically recreate Mario 64 in Gmod by installing like 2 things. I tried out this PSX-style shader add-on from the workshop, and while I do think it did sorta help to sell the illusion a bit more that this was actually Mario 64, I don't think it was that faithful to what N64 games actually looked like. I would say if anything, it made it look like the DS port of Mario 64, but I don't play that. I'm not Scott the Woz. I found that as cool as everything was, the funnest part to me was probably just spawning in Source Engine assets and seeing how hilariously out of place they looked next to Mario, which gave me a very bad idea to play through the Half-Life 2 campaign with this add-on enabled, which was not a very good time.
This is exactly how I remember it when I was a kid. Yeah, pretty much just like that.
As strange as this might sound, I kinda wish there were more add-ons I had to install for this part. It was so convenient that I could get this working with one add-on, but I kinda missed the joy of installing 100 different add-ons to make a big, nasty mess. Also, you can actually do the backwards long jump glitch with this add-on. I mean, I can't because I'm bad at video games, but here's a guy on YouTube who managed to pull it off. Awesome. Grand Theft Auto is a game whose formula has not meaningfully changed since October 22nd, 2001. But that's okay, because it's a fun game, its formula really doesn't need to be expanded upon that much, and that's hopefully only going to make it easier to remake in Gary's mod. I decided to work my way backwards with this one because I figured it would be easier that way, and also because I am very impatient and I want to play with the cool shit as fast as humanly possible. The first order of business was heading over to the workshop and casually downloading the entire map from Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. If you don't play Gmod very often, you might not realize how big of a deal it is that that's even possible, but trust me, it's a very big deal. So there I was in Grove Street, along with, literally every single other square inch of the map from San Andreas, and I figured that the next logical step would be to put the game in third person. It was actually really hard to find a decent third-person add-on that even came close to mimicking GTA's camera, but I eventually found this one called XDE Third Person that not only centered the player in the middle of the screen, but also lets you look around freely, which is exactly how Grand Theft Auto's camera works to this very day. I was really happy with this add-on, and I felt like it was as close to GTA's camera as I could possibly get, but it did make me aware of a very big problem. I was an old white man in a suit. I don't know if you know much about Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, but that is not what the main character looks like, even a little bit. So I changed my player model to CJ, and already the game was looking a hell of a lot like San Andreas. I also gave CJ a really stupid-ass looking run animation. I actually forgot why I did that, but it looks cool, I guess. Now it was finally time to add the vehicles, which was stupidly easy thanks to the Sim Fizz add-on, which adds realistic cars into the game, and the San Andreas Cars add-on for Sim Fizz. Within just a few moments, I was off, driving around this massive-ass map in basically any vehicle I could imagine. It's maybe a little hard to tell just by looking at the footage, but the game now felt exactly like San Andreas, and I was genuinely shocked at just how fun it was to explore a map this big in Garry's Mod. If you don't play Garry's Mod, this really might not seem all that cool, but this is something that literally wasn't possible up until like 2 years ago. Unfortunately, as fun as it was, the amount of glitches, bugs, and general problems that the sheer size of the map put forward made me realize pretty quickly that I was going to have to abandon it. I know that probably sucks to hear, but I really wanted to make the experience as fun as possible, and the honest truth was that the map was just so damn big that it was glitching out literally every add-on I installed. So I decided to send this legendary map off the only way I know how, which was flying a World War II Japanese fighter plane over it, which for some reason lagged the shit out of my computer. I switched maps over to a much smaller roleplay map called RP Southside Day, where I could finally start tinkering without worrying about the map size causing a bunch of different issues. Since it was a map based in New York, I also decided it'd be a good idea to shift gears a little bit and change my player model from CJ to good old Nico Bellic. The stupid run animation I added actually fits him like way better, so I guess it all worked out in the end. I got right to work making the game feel more like GTA 4 by adding in Euphoria physics using the Fedhoria add-on. This is honestly the add-on I was most excited about because I probably spent hours of my childhood loading up GTA 4 just to make Nico fall down the stairs in a very funny way. I didn't want to hog all the good physics for myself though, so I also made the Euphoria physics apply to the NPCs, and then downloaded the Complex Death Animations mod, which resulted in some really nice feeling combat. Now when you go up and some innocent person just standing around on the street, they'll react by holding the part of the body that you at, and that animation will then turn into a ragdoll. It actually works really nicely, and I think is pretty spot on to how combat feels in GTA 4. The most important thing, honestly, was just making sure that it didn't feel like Garry's Mod, and by this point, it really didn't feel like Garry's Mod. Since my dream of making this game anything like San Andreas was pretty much dead at this point, I also went ahead and added some GTA 4 cars, as well as some cool weapons from GTA 5. Really, the only thing left to do at this point was to populate the city so that it actually felt like Grand Theft Auto. I used the background NPCs add-on to not only randomly place a bunch of pedestrians around the city, but also add in a sophisticated wanted system where the more random crime you commit, the more police show up. And exactly like GTA, the more stars you have, the stronger the police force gets. By the way, the NPCs around the city aren't just Half-Life 2 NPCs. They actually talk to you, have places to be, and will react appropriately when they see you kill someone or if you physically hurt them. I didn't even notice this until I was done recording, but pedestrians can even call the police if they witness you doing a crime, and you can either intimidate them to make them stop or just shoot them in the head before the call goes through. Finally, it was time to justify the auto in Grand Theft Auto and make it so that manned vehicles spawned all around the city. Most of the time, there's just regular old people driving these around, but every so often you can run into cops or a member of the military. And of course, you can steal their cars. That's why it's called Grand Theft Auto. With that, I now had a game with wonky-ass physics, funny death animations, tons of good third-person weapons, a huge city to explore full of NPCs to kill, crime to commit, police to stop you from committing said crime, and a whole lot of cars to steal. In other words, I now had Grand Theft Auto. I know it really doesn't look like all that much, but it really does feel insanely good to play. You and I can just ignore the 100 plus times that Garry's Mod crashed while I was recording this video. This whole thing was just stupid fun, and the jankiness of the source engine, coupled with the large-scale mayhem of GTA, is frankly just a match made in heaven, and I'm not lying when I say that this is some of the most fun I've had playing single-player Gmod in a very long time. Something like this would literally just not have been possible to do when I was a kid, and it's kinda cool to know that talented people are still finding ways to get creative when it comes to modding for Gmod. Also, I downloaded a Spider-Man add-on on top of all this, so boom, Spider-Man Remake in Gary's Mod. That's 2 games for the price of 1. Most channels wouldn't do that for you, but I did. You're welcome. I don't think there's any better way to end this video than by remaking one of my favorite games of all time, Metal Gear Solid 3. Now, I know Konami is already doing this or whatever, but mine's gonna be better, so, it really doesn't matter. My first move, as always, was to find a nice looking map. There's a grand total of 1 Metal Gear Solid 3 map on the entire Gary's Mod workshop, and that's this one that ports over the part with the long-ass ladder from the original game. It's not exactly the most open map, but it is literally all I have. Next was to make my character Solid Snake. Boom. Just like that, I'm Solid Snake.
Yes.
That is Solid Snake!
I ended up reusing the third-person camera from the GTA remake, which actually looked pretty nice and was fairly accurate to Metal Gear Solid 3. I also added in some cool bad guys. Next up was giving Snake some guns. I actually found an entire collection of Metal Gear Solid weapons on the workshop, but they force you into third person by default, which conflicts pretty heavily with the third-person camera that I'm using. I'll definitely still use these here and there because they're honestly just cool as hell, but I'm going to have to find a better add-on for Snake's default main loadout. I eventually landed on a mishmash of different weapon mods all running on the TFA base, which is important because they're not only super customizable, but they also allow you to have a third-person camera during normal gameplay and switch to a first-person camera when aiming down the sights. This is exactly how shooting works in Metal Gear Solid 3, so I was pretty happy that everything worked out. After that was all sorted, I began getting to work on the actual mechanics. Stealth is inarguably the most important part of the Metal Gear Solid franchise, so being able to sneak around is a pretty big deal. I started first by adding 2 of Snake's most important abilities, being able to get inside of a cardboard box and being able to move around on the ground, like a snake. These worked pretty well for making Snake look stealthy visually, but behind the scenes there was literally no way to make enemies not detect you. Not to over-explain too much, but stealth in the Source engine isn't just bad, it really doesn't even exist. The way bad guys work in Source games is stupidly simple. They basically have a big old circle around them, and the second you walk into that circle, they spotted you and are now going to empty their entire magazine into the front of your dumb head. Luckily, none of that actually really matters because there is a huge number of mods in the workshop that add stealth into Gary's Mod, and by huge number, I mean that there's just one. Stealth 2.1 is one of the most impressive Gmod add-ons I've ever seen, and it just so happens to be absolutely perfect for what I'm trying to achieve. It not only adds stealth into the game by making it harder for enemies to spot you, it's also surprisingly deep and actually takes into account how much light is in the map, how much noise you're making, whether or not you're prone, and whether or not you're inside of a giant cardboard box. Even things like the clothes that your player model has on can actually affect how well enemies can see you. I'm not quite done glazing it just yet though, because it also adds a bunch of cool stealth tools like a proximity sensor that lets you mark enemies through walls, a decoy grenade that distracts enemies, and probably the most important bit yet, a tranquilizer gun and stun baton that actually knock enemies out for a short period of time. Finally, I downloaded this MGS3 style energy system mod that not only adds a 1-to-1 remake of the HUD from MGS3, but also makes it so that your health passively regenerates based on stamina, just like it does in the actual game. Oh, and you also have to eat burgers and raw fish and shit to keep your stamina up while you play the game.
Tasty.
So without any further ado, here is the NBA highlight reel of my Gary's Mod Metal Gear Solid 3 remake.
made a Metal Gear Solid 5 version of this mod pack. Here's that. Is the memory gone? Are you feeling numb? Not a word. I say.
Going into making this video, I didn't really know what to expect because... Actually, you know what? I did know what to expect. I expected every game I made to look like ass, and they all do. So, you know, I guess I was spot on. Ass aside, though, this entire video was just stupidly fun to make, and I think if anything, it just goes to show how many talented people are still taking time out of their day to make stuff for Gary's Mod, which was a weirdly heartwarming thing to realize in the middle of all this mess that I was making. I truly think the modding potential Gmod has is unrivaled by literally any other platform out there, and the fact that I was able to do everything you saw in this video without writing a single line of code should probably be testament to that. Even now, there are insanely talented teams working on stuff like a Dragon Source, which is a really cool fan remake of Yakuza running entirely in Gary's Mod. The only difference between me and them is those guys are actually doing smart guy stuff like writing code, and I'm just, downloading stuff someone else made off the workshop. But other than that, we're basically the same. If you take away anything from this video, it should be that the reason you and I get to enjoy Gmod's unnaturally long lifespan is because cool people still make cool stuff for it, and that's something I think people tend to forget pretty often. Now to answer the question that I know everyone is asking. Ratlobber, did you just make me watch a 30-minute video that is essentially just a grown man playing with toys and turning them into other toys? Thanks for watching. I've been Ratlobber. Peace.